In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to fix FlutterFlow API errors. We'll walk through the most common setup issues that cause API calls to fail in FlutterFlow, and more importantly, how to correct them so your app behaves reliably. Start by opening FlutterFlow and loading the project where the API error is happening. Once you're inside the project, go to your API call setup in the FlutterFlow REST API section. This is where you'll review the request configuration and make the key fixes. One of the first things to check is whether the API call should be private. Turn on the Make Private switch if needed. This is especially helpful when errors are caused by browser-based restrictions because it changes how the request is handled. After that, deploy the automatically managed Cloud Function proxy. This routes the API request through a server instead of directly through the browser, which helps resolve origin-related mismatches and CORS-style issues. If your API works in testing tools but fails inside FlutterFlow, this step is often the solution. Next, inspect your headers carefully. FlutterFlow separates header names and values into different fields, so do not type colons inside those boxes. A colon may seem harmless if you're used to writing raw headers manually, but here it can break the request formatting and lead to avoidable errors. You'll also want to check how variables are inserted into the API URL. Avoid using double curly brackets in the URL field. Instead, use FlutterFlow's dynamic drag and drop variable tags or format values with single angle brackets. This ensures the dynamic values are injected properly and prevents malformed request paths. Now move to the UI side, especially anywhere you're mapping API JSON responses into widgets. For every dynamic text string, set a default value. This is important because if the API returns an empty or missing field, FlutterFlow can throw errors unless a fallback value is already defined. If your API is powering a dynamic list, pay close attention to list view widgets. When the array is empty on page load, FlutterFlow may generate a null error. To prevent that, wrap the list view container in a conditional visibility rule and make sure the target JSON path is set and not empty before the widget tries to render. If you're seeing a 400 bad request error, that usually points to malformed syntax. In other words, the request is reaching the server, but something in the structure is wrong. Review the URL, parameters, headers, and variable formatting carefully. Finally, manage runtime error actions in your UI. That way, if an API call still fails, your app can respond gracefully instead of breaking the user experience. This gives you a more stable interface while you continue debugging. Apply these fixes one by one, test after each change, and you'll usually find the issue much faster.